Good morning and welcome to the day 5 coverage of the 2023 Tour Divide. Let's dive straight in and have a little look at the map and see what's been going on. So I'm going to focus on the women's race to start with today. Lael Wilcox, as you can see, has got a pretty big gap at the moment. So she's leading over Katja. You're going to have to excuse me for this pronunciation. Katja Rakhmatulina. We'll stick with Katja for now anyway. If anyone does come correct me on that, then please do. So Lael is riding. She's in Lima at the moment. Yesterday I said she was ahead of her record pace. Although the marker on her record pace, apparently when she set the record, her tracker was playing up in the first part of the race, so she's actually a little way behind that. Where's her marker here? So that's Lael's pace in there, just that little pink marker with the flag on just under Sasha there. So I've been basically advised that that she had tracker issues in the year she set the record. So at the moment it's best to kind of base our kind of estimations on the men's single speed record, who I think is in there somewhere. So Lael is a little bit behind her record at the moment, but not far off. I mean, she's pretty much over the big pass here, heading down into Lima. She's on a solid place at the moment. A low 15-day pace. And there's plenty of time left in this race to bring that back. And she's got a very comfortable lead over Katja. So Katja is, looks like she's gone through Wise River. So she'll be on that long road section today and heading into Bannock Road and over Medicine. I think it's Medicine Lodge Pass over here. Can't quite remember. Behind her, we've got Hannah Simon. And it's hard to tell exactly with the trackers because they do ping at different times. So this gap might be slightly different, but Sasha's there and Hannah, and they're kind of looking quite comfortable. And then April Drange further back. Looks like she's staying in Butte. And then Alexandra Huchin, Marisol Blaise. I shared her video the other day. Quite an interesting kind of background. And then a nice cluster here, obviously staying in Helena. A little bit of news on Alexandra as well. Sounds like she's having a few bike issues and gearing issues. So I shall dig into that in a second. I'll just show you some Instagram from Lael. So this is on Fleece Ridge. So she's actually sponsored by Rennes Tyres, and they have named the tyre for the Tour Divide after this very descent, the Fleece Ridge. Let's see what Lael's got to say.
Just walking down Fleecer Ridge. These are my Fleecer Ridge tires, but really, I don't care what tires you have. You gotta be Miranda Miller to be descending this stuff.
Yeah, I can second that. Like I said yesterday, it is rideable. I've seen people ride it. Maybe not on a drop bar bike. Your weight, your centre of gravity is just too far forward, and quite frankly, it's probably not worth the risk if you're not super confident. And then
Resupply in Wise River, bought bolts to try to fix my cleat, and I don't think it's gonna work at all, but it was pretty fast. And then I'm just making sandwiches.
That's the classic Lael snack. Just shove loads of food in your top tube bag, and it sounds like she has been having cleat issues. Bolts can come loose, so hopefully she gets that fixed, that it's not slowing her down too much. And then she
riding up on the cattle drive.
Found the cattle this morning.
So we gotta get through these cows.
So yeah, there's the Montana's basically it's ranch country, a lot of cattle, and sometimes you just end up having to ride through the cattle.
Thank you.
So that's what Lael's up to. We touched on Alexandra. So she sounds like she's been having a few bike issues, gone through the bearings on her bottom bracket, so she's stopped in Helena at the Great Divide Cycle Read to get a new bottom bracket. I'd imagine the wet conditions, and also when you're single speeding, you're putting quite a lot of pressure through the bottom bracket all the time, so it can sometimes accelerate the wear. Just looking after a bike. See what she's got to say.
It's like the biggest Hot Pocket ever. Not Hot Pocket,
Tour Divide snacking.
pizza roll.
So yeah, look at those trails.
It's a disaster out here.
Sounds wet. Sounds like it's been tough going. And well, we kind of knew that from seeing some other photos, but yeah, it kind of confirmed that. Another interesting point, Tour Divide, bikepacking.com have a very good Tour Divide roundup, and they had a few kind of they obviously have a few different contacts, and they said, so according to Kathy at the Blackfoot Anglers, so that's in Ovando, Alexandra is struggling with her gearing. So she set her bike up to try and match Chris Plesko's single speed record from 2016. So she's running a 34.17 gearing, which is it's fairly heavy. Well, for Tour Divide certainly, but she's reported it's not working well for her, and she thinks she may have made a mistake there. Now, just so the record was set in the same year that Mike Cool set the overall record, which as we know was super dry, almost perfect conditions, couldn't have been better. So if he was riding that same gearing then when it was super dry, it would have been much easier than when the current conditions. There seems to be quite a lot of rain. The ground's going to be softer. There's going to be more resistance against your tyres, and therefore that gear is going to just be a little bit taller. So I'm not really surprised that she's struggling a little bit with it. But as she gets further south, if it does dry up a bit, then she might find that gear comes in, starts rolling a bit better, and she might start kind of moving up a little bit. So yeah, keep an eye on that, and have a look at the bikepacking.com report. They've got some really great photos from up there, and they featured me as well. So big shout out to bikepacking.com for the love. So yeah, go and have a look at that. What else have we got? So Katja, so she look at those sunrises and sunsets on Tour Divide. Had a bit of a crash on Lava Mountain by the looks of it. Like we said, those trails can be quite sketchy, especially in the wet. There's a lot of water everywhere by the looks of it. So it's been quite a grim start. And a bit of an update as well.
So it is day 5, and I usually tell people that I cry on day 3. I've made it 2 more days, and today's the day I cried. I was doing well, felt really good yesterday. Today is like the complete opposite, but I guess that's what bikepacking is, a roller coaster of emotions. In Butte I spent like 3 hours very inefficiently shopping for food and then stopping at the bike shop because my tires are kind of worn off, but they don't have the tires, but they did scare me. And then as I left the town on that busy road with cars, started pouring on me, trying to channel Alexandra, because I feel like she thrives in bad environments and I fall apart.
So yeah, that's another interesting update. It's a mental game as much as anything, the Tour Divide, highs and lows. Even yesterday when we had the recordings of the guys up the front, the men, the 2 leaders, Ulrich and Justinus, they're a bit flagging, and then third place is super happy. So yeah, you get highs and you get lows. You question yourself. You wonder what other people are doing. Catches, thinks Alexandra's smashing it and thriving, and maybe she's struggling more than she makes on as well. So yeah, you're always guessing yourself and everyone else, and it's not just pedaling your bike, the Tour Divide. It's a mental game. I'd argue probably a mental game more than a physical game. It's great to see all the women in the race still pushing on. And yeah, they're doing great. Oh, one more person I just have to draw your attention to. Where is she? Sue O'Malley from New Zealand. So yeah, Grant guys sent me a message just saying Sue is aiming to be the oldest woman to complete the Tour Divide. 64 years old. So she's aiming for a 27-day finish, a month on the road, just over. So yeah, good on you, Sue. Just goes to show you're never too old to do these things. Age is not an excuse, so get out there and get riding, everyone. Let's just have a little. I've had a few requests for single speed, so category, there's the women's, where are we? Time trial, northbound. Single speed, there we go. There's so much going on this map. Right, so single speed update. So we saw that Chris Plesko, his record is currently in Lima. So fair way off Jake Colantonio. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry, Jake, if I've butchered your name as usual. He's on that road section, the big road pass from Wise River, so he'll be hitting the Bannock Road. Hopefully the rain holds off, because the Bannock Road can get really disastrously muddy. It can kind of stop you dead in your tracks. Thankfully I've never experienced that. It's only been dry, but you know, if it's wet at the moment, a few showers could really turn that into a mud bath. And then again, just starting the other side of the big road pass here, Carl Peterson, and there's a little gathering sort of around here, and of course Alexandra, she'll be heading down, she's going into Butte, so she's making good time, and hopefully, like we said, once the conditions, or if the conditions dry up, she'll be able to get that gear rolling a little bit better. I'm not sure what everyone else is running gear wise. If anyone's got an insight, just put it in the comments. It's always good to know this inside stuff, and you can also really kind of read a lot into things when you know sort of further information like that. Right, let's put the main field back on and just have a little look, see what's going on. Where are we? Northbound. I will touch on southbound as well. Sorry, I will touch on northbound as well at some point, but I feel like there's so much to talk about at the moment. It's hard to focus, so do let me know in the comments. I mean, I'm as new to this as you are watching, so I'm trying to keep the videos no longer than 20 minutes. If that's too long, let me know. If that's not long enough, let me know, and I'll try and find something that suits everyone. Before I go on to the front of the race, I'll just say thank you to Holyfat, who was supporting me and helping me do this coverage. Obviously, they do these nut butters and energy, like fat-based energy bars, which I've been using for a little while. They've actually given me a little discount code, so anyone who's watching can get a bit of a discount on their products. I'll put it down in the description underneath. So yeah, I won't bang on about them too much, but thank you very much, Holyfat, and check them out and maybe consider supporting them as they have supported me. So on to the head of the race, and yesterday we saw that the three riders were coming back together. So Ulrich and Justinus had been really like pushing it hard at the front, not sleeping very much, and then Jens van Roost had gradually just kind of eked his way up, and he caught them. So I think he caught them in Lima, and he obviously had a shorter resupply than they did, and they're all riding together now. So they're heading onto the rail trail, and into I think they're in Idaho now. Very short amount of time in the state of Idaho. So yeah, you can see they crossed over here. I think it's is it Red Rock Pass, where you cross out of Montana into Idaho. So yeah, it's not my favourite section of the route. It's a weird old track, but I'll dig into that shortly on the Ryby GPS app. But yeah, those three are really pulling away now. I think we're really seeing the leaders establish themselves, and it looks like at the moment these guys are vying for the overall win. Joe Nation looks like he stopped in Lima. I read that he'd had a bit of a leg injury, so he might be having a bigger stop tonight, so that's going to let that gap go out. Also, Ted King, he's stopped in Butte. I think he ended up in hospital. I think basically, I can't remember the medical term, but essentially his muscles are breaking down too fast, and it can give you kidney problems. So he stopped there. He's undecided whether he's going to carry on at the moment. I think he's doing the sensible thing and having a good night's sleep before he decides on scratching or not, as the case may be. But hopefully he's okay. So that's essentially taken Ted King out of the running. He was the fastest guy on track, but he was probably resting the most out of the front runners. So this is how the Tour Divide works. And I found personally, around Lima, this area, you're sort of 4 or 5 days in. This is kind of like a key waypoint. I think the general rule of thumb is if you get through Montana, then you're pretty good for the rest of the Tour Divide. It is quite a tough state. But in 2019, I had my big sort of first mental wobble round here. I think I stayed like 6 hours in Lima, ended up staying there overnight. And it took me a while to get going, but then further down you get into the rhythm of things. So it'd be interesting to see, you know, do we start seeing a few more scratches in the next day or so? A 4 or 5 day bike ride is a big bike ride anyway, regardless of you know, if you're carrying on doing the rest of the divide. So yeah, stalemate at the front. I've got a bit of a theory as to why Jens has been catching up, but first I'll just show you a couple of stories. So the Bannock Road and over, I think it's Medicine Lodge Pass, I can't remember the name of the big pass. Anyway, looks like there was a lot of mud. That would have slowed the leaders down, and it can change so quickly in this area. You know, if you're 2 hours behind and it's been sunny, you could ride it, whereas if you're kind of in the stickiest part of the day, then you can really have issues. And you see Ulrich just clogged up. The roads look okay there, but I don't know, they're just sticky. Ah, look, cream cheese, there we go. So yeah, they've been really slowed down, having to clean their bikes off. And you can just see it's tacky, the surface is tacky, that's going to be slowing them down. And this looks like there's a snow at the top there. A little bit of snow, but not too bad. And yeah, this is Lima. It looks like they've cleaned their bikes off, had quite a big stop. And then Justinus, let's hear what Justinus has to say. He's normally good for some good quotes.
Now I should post more. But sorry, there's very limited network.
You're in a bike race, Justinus. It's not all about
2,000
Instagram.
meters above sea level, out of Lima, upwards and forwards. But so you know,
Dried up a bit now.
I'm filming, so there will be stuff. You'll get.
So my theory on this section, I'll head over to the Riber GPS app now. Probably illustrates it better. So we saw the track conditions there. Now bearing in mind that Ulrich probably, and maybe Justinus to a certain extent, aren't as experienced riding off road. I don't know the background of Jens, but I know who he hangs out with in Belgium, and I know he lives in Belgium. So I'd hasten to say that he's pretty good at riding in mud. Now, riding in mud is a bit of an art, actually. And I'm speaking from experience, living in the UK, racing cyclocross in the winter. It's not all about just putting power out. Sometimes you've just got to really kind of like feather your pedals. It's like smooth, almost gentle, like round pedaling rather than just stomping on the pedals. And that keeps your traction, keeps you moving forward. And you can really gain a lot of time and a lot of speed like that. So my theory is that there's been a lot of rain the last few days. Certainly before Wise River, between Butte and Wise River, it looked like there was a lot of mud. And then obviously the Bannock Road and over the pass here. So my suspicion is that Jens is actually very good at riding in the mud, and he's therefore closed quite a bit of time on Justinus and Ulrich. And he's been sleeping more, so we've talked about that before, you know, about the kind of rest versus run. He's been sleeping more and fresher at this stage, so I think that's how he's closed that gap. And now they're all riding together. So we saw Justinus, he would have been on this section here. I've got a little bit of video from 2019, bone dry, when I rode it. So it's basically a wide open, basically ranch land. Now last year in 2022, it rained quite heavily before, and this was quite tacky. So a bit of rain and it makes it really soft. You can see how the tyre marks are in here. But it dried quite quickly. So I was about probably 7 or 8 hours behind Sofian, who was leading last year at this stage. And I could see his tyre marks sort of sunk deep into the mud. But then by the time I rode it, maybe, well, he would have done it in the night, but by the time the daylight had come on, you know, it was much easier to ride through the mud or over the surface, and I think I probably rode it quite quick. So you have to bear that in mind with the surfaces and the mud here. So they would have crossed through all here over Red Rock Pass, which is the thumbnail of this episode. Excuse me. And then drop down. There's a resupply here. Go along the highway a little bit, and then you drop onto the rail trail, which I believe is this section here. Here we go, the straight line, the rail trail. It's basically an old train line. If you look at it, it looks pretty much downhill on the map, but don't be fooled by it. It's an energy sapping and slow section. It's basically, I think it's an old train track, at some point the rails have been pulled up, and it's kind of just like a loose, soft kind of track. Just saps all your energy. I think snowmobiles and stuff use it in the winter when it's all snowed up, but it takes a while. It's quite exhausting, really. And then you finally get to the end of it, and you just drop down into this incredible valley, and you feel a marked change now. You're going into Idaho, out of Montana, a lot of ranch land, big wide open kind of rolling mountains, I guess, and then suddenly you're dropping into, I know it's like the Wild West, it's like a postcard or something. Really incredible. It's quite the moment. And then I feel when I did it in 2019, I really felt I was getting into the into the divide reel, and they'll be dropping down into Warm River. So if we see at the moment, they are moving along the highway here. They would have resupplied in Maxin, moving along the highway, and this is the rail trail there. So 1 in the morning now. I expect they're going to sleep somewhere, so they'll be probably doing this in the dark tomorrow, but they should get sunrise just about where I showed you from the last video. Right, that is probably enough rabbiting on from me today. I hope you liked the video. As always, thank you very much for all the comments and all the likes, and if you're enjoying this, please subscribe. I'm going to put together a Q&A video which I'll put out later today. I've got loads of questions in the comments, so in order to stop this being a half-hour epic, I shall do a separate video on all of those, so keep an eye out for that. I'll put the